So what is going on with the global economy right now? For 2025, it's in this really weird spot. It's not a recession, but it's definitely not a boom either. Instead, what we're seeing is a world that's fracturing, kind of splitting apart into these wildly different economic realities. So let's dig into what that actually means.
This quote, wow, it just hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? This isn't just about some countries doing a little better than others. No, we're talking about something way deeper. It's like one part of the world is living in summer while another is stuck in a deep freeze. The big question is, how did things get so fractured?
All right, so let's look at the big number everyone's talking about. 2.6% growth for the whole world. Now, you might look at that and think, hey, that's not a recession. And you'd be right, technically. But what experts are calling this is tenuous resilience. Think of it like this. The global economy isn't sinking, but it's treading water, and the currents are getting pretty rough.
Okay, so where's the first major fault line in this fractured economy? Well, you just have to look right across the Atlantic. We're seeing two completely different stories playing out in the United States and in Europe. It's a real tale of two continents.
And I mean, just look at this. The difference is massive. On one hand, you've got the US economy, which is holding relatively strong, showing some real resilience. And then you have the Eurozone. Wow, really struggling, with growth forecasts slashed all the way down to just 0.9%. A gap that wide just doesn't happen by accident.
So, what's causing it? Well, a huge piece of the puzzle is policy. Decisions being made in Washington, especially around trade tariffs, are sending some serious shockwaves across the ocean. It makes sense, right? You've got countries like Germany and Austria, whose economies are practically built on exports, so they're the ones feeling the pinch the most right now.
Now let's shift our focus over to Asia, because we're seeing another huge divergence happening there. But this is a different kind of story. It's like the continent's traditional economic engine is, well, it's changing gears in a big way.
And here it is, a tale of two giants. China, for so long the undisputed powerhouse, is slowing down, projected to grow around 4.5%. But at the exact same time, look at India. It's hitting the accelerator, with growth expected to be over 6%. To be honest, that makes India one of the only major bright spots on the entire global map.
You know, for decades, China was the story. It was the engine that pulled the whole world's economy forward. But now, as it's wrestling with its own trade pressures, you can literally see that momentum shifting over to India. It's a massive, massive change for the economic landscape of the entire continent.
But let's be real for a minute. For a huge part of the world, this whole conversation about growth rates is a luxury. We're not talking about a slowdown. We're talking about sheer survival. For many low-income countries, it's like walking a tightrope over a canyon, and the winds are really picking up.
Just think about what they're up against. It's a perfect storm. The investment money they need to build and grow, it's drying up. They are buried under mountains of debt. And on top of all that, they're dealing with more conflict and more extreme weather. It's not one single problem. It's everything hitting them all at once.
And this is what's so brutal about it. It becomes this vicious cycle, a trap that's almost impossible to escape. It works like this. Conflict breaks out, which scares away investors. Without money, they can't prepare for climate shocks. So when a drought or a flood hits, it causes chaos, which, you guessed it, leads to more instability. It just feeds on itself.
Okay, so we've seen these fractures between the US and Europe, within Asia, and across the developing world. Let's pull back for a second and ask the big question, why? What's the fundamental reason for all this? What's the common thread running through it all?
A lot of it comes down to a domino effect. It can all start with one country putting up a trade barrier. That's the first domino. The next one to fall? The economic forecast for all the countries that trade with them. That creates this chill across the global economy. And the last, and maybe the biggest domino to fall, is investment. Because when things are this uncertain, businesses just aren't willing to bet on the future.
And this is why we have to understand that this isn't just some short-term economic cycle. This isn't a blip on the radar. What we might be seeing here is something much, much bigger. We could be witnessing the unraveling of the entire global order that was put in place almost 80 years ago, right after World War II. And to really grasp how huge this shift is, just look at this. Back in 1945, the U.S. was spending an incredible 40% of its entire economy on defense, and a lot of that was about building this new global system of cooperation. Fast forward to today, that number is down to about 3.4%. And that whole system? Well, now it's being questioned from all sides. That's not just a change in numbers, it's a fundamental change in how the world works.
So that leaves us with one last, and maybe the most important question. For the better part of a century, the world was busy building economic bridges, but now we can see those bridges starting to crack, starting to fracture. And it really makes you wonder, as these old connections crumble, what new walls are we building to take their place?